15 kids shows that accidentally became nightmare fuel cartoons were supposed to be safe. They were background noise during dinner, comfort after school, bright colors, silly jokes, harmless fun. But sometimes, something slipped through. A scene that felt too real. A villain that felt too disturbing. A moment that stayed with us long after the TV was turned off. These weren't horror shows. They weren't meant to traumatize anyone. And yet, they did. Let's dive in. Courage the Cowardly Dog, 1999. Created by John R. Dilworth. On the surface, it was simple. A pink dog. Two elderly owners. A farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. But that nowhere wasn't just a location. It was isolation. Every episode dropped courage into surreal horror scenarios. Mummies, aliens, cursed barbers, sentient slabs. But the real fear wasn't the monsters. It was the loneliness. The vast, empty desert. The silence between threats. The feeling that no help was ever coming. And then there was King Ramses, that low-frame, uncanny CGI face floating against traditional animation. It felt wrong, almost invasive. Or Freaky Fred, softly whispering, obsessively repeating naughty, calmly shaving victims bald. This wasn't loud horror, it was psychological discomfort. For many kids, this show was their first exposure to existential dread. The Powerpuff Girls, 1998. Created by Craig McCracken, Bright Skies, primary colors, kindergarten superheroes. Then, him appeared. Him wasn't just a villain. He was manipulation personified. His voice would switch from gentle whispers to demonic growls in seconds. His design blurred gender lines. His presence distorted reality itself. In one episode, he sends the girls into a dystopian future where they abandon Townsville. The city is destroyed. The citizens are broken. That wasn't a typical cartoon conflict. That was guilt, failure, hopelessness. For a children's show, that was heavy. Are You Afraid of the Dark? 1990. Created by DJ McHale, this series did something dangerous. It made horror feel possible. The Dead Man's Float featured a red skeletal creature lurking in a school pool. Not exaggerated, not cartoonish, slimy, silent, watching. The message was subtle but terrifying. Monsters don't live in castles, they live in ordinary places, schools, basements, bedrooms. For many kids, this was their first real taste of suspense-driven horror, and it lingered. Ren and Stimpy, 1991, created by John Kricfalusi. This show looked silly, but it felt wrong. Sudden, hyper-detailed close-ups of skin, teeth, and pores. Exaggerated expressions that bordered on grotesque. It weaponized discomfort. The humor wasn't always playful. It was manic, chaotic, occasionally cruel. For kids expecting slapstick, what they got was sensory overload. It blurred the line between comedy and disturbance. Goosebumps, 1995. Based on books by R.L. Stine. This was gateway horror, or so parents thought. But The Haunted Mask told a story about identity. A girl puts on a mask that won't come off. It begins to merge with her skin. Her personality changes. This wasn't just Halloween fun, it was about losing yourself, becoming something you don't recognize. That's a surprisingly mature concept for a children's show. SpongeBob SquarePants, 1999. Created by Steven Hillenburg. Mostly absurd comedy. But then there's Rock Bottom. SpongeBob gets stuck in a strange place. No one speaks clearly. The bus never arrives. He keeps missing his chance to leave. It's funny until you realize it feels like a panic attack, isolation, confusion, repeated failure. For many viewers, this episode triggered a subtle but real anxiety. Batman, the animated series, 1992, developed by Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski. This wasn't bright and cheerful. It was noir, shadows everywhere, Art Deco darkness. Mr. Freeze wasn't a joke villain. He was tragic, mourning his frozen wife, delivering monologues about loss. Clayface's body melting and reshaping felt like body horror. This show treated kids like adults, and sometimes it hurt. The Adventures of Mark Twain, 1985, directed by Will Vinton. Most of the film feels whimsical, until Satan appears, a faceless clay figure calmly discussing destruction, humanity's flaws, the inevitability of annihilation. There's no screaming, no chaos, just calm existential dread. Many viewers still remember that scene vividly, decades later. Invader Zim, 2001, created by Jonan Vasquez' aggressive art style, dark color palette, screaming energy. In one episode, Zim steals human organs to pass as normal. That's body horror in a Nickelodeon cartoon. The humor was dark, almost nihilistic. It wasn't accidental horror, but it definitely wasn't gentle. Coraline, 2009, directed by Henry Selick. This film feels magical at first. A secret door, a better version of your life, better parents. But the other mother slowly changes. Her smile stretches too wide. As her body elongates, her love becomes control. This is manipulation horror disguised as fantasy, and for many kids it was deeply unsettling. Adventure Time, 2010, created by Pendleton Ward. It looks goofy, but it takes place after a nuclear apocalypse. The Lich speaks softly about extinction, about inevitability, about the end of all life. That's existential horror wrapped in bright colors. Maybe these shows didn't go too far. Maybe they trusted kids more than we think. They introduced fear in controlled doses. They explored grief, isolation, identity, and loss. Yes, they gave us nightmares, but they also gave us emotional depth. They proved animation isn't just for laughs. It can disturb, it can challenge, it can stay with you for years. And maybe that's why we still talk about them. So tell me, which one still lingers in your memory when the lights go out?